Mystical greetings, witches and warlocks, and welcome to episode 3 of Crystals, Cauldrons, and Conversations. And happy Friday the 13th. Woo-hoo. So, today I'm going to be talking all about Friday the 13th, and I'm going to reclaim it as something that has become looked at as this scary, unlucky, horrible thing and explain to you why you can totally change that perspective and why it was actually something sacred in the pagan and witch community and still is for modern witch community. But before that, I want to introduce two new sections. So we're going to start with our Moon Muse, and that is where I will just give you some information about the current moon sign and phases in the lunar calendar. So let's start with that. So the moon is currently in Capricorn, which I am a Capricorn, so yay me. Despite what sign the moon is, when the moon is in a certain sign, and it'll tell you that it's a good time for this or that, you also have to pay attention to what day it is on the lunar calendar because things can vary and alter based on what moon day it is. So the moon is in Capricorn currently, which is an earth sign, and can naturally make you feel more down to earth and can also make you feel like you want to work harder. And it's a good time for working hard and working ambitiously to achieve goals. However, today is actually the 25th moon day on the lunar calendar. So today specifically is actually a good day for living with the day with no hurry or hassle, and you should actually avoid starting new endeavors because your energy may be declining today. So it's best to have some alone time, spend some time reflecting and doing some self love on today, the 25th moon day of the lunar calendar. I'm also going to give you some information on crystals that you can use when the moon is in a certain sign. So, with the moon being in Capricorn, some crystals people may use in their work. One of them would be jasper. Jasper is often called a stone of grounding. People use it for grounding when they feel scattered or anxious and emotionally overloaded. So, note to self, definitely need some jasper. It can help anchor your energy. And a lot of the times it's carried as a protective talisman, especially for travelers or those who may be in a stressful situation at that time. I actually keep a list of all the different stones and crystals and herbs that I need to add to my collection. I put jasper on there. Found a local witchy shop recently last weekend. My girlfriend took me, you may have seen the posts on Facebook. And she spoiled us. We got some supplies that we needed. I'm taking my mom there actually this weekend. So I'm going to pick up some more stuff. Yeah. So Jasper. Jasper is also associated with endurance, courage, and steady confidence. Some consider it to be nurturing and useful for times of grief, stress, and for emotional healing. There are actually different types of jasper. There's red jasper, which is related to vitality, strength, and grounding. There's what's called picture jasper, and that is related to a connection to nature, reflection, inner journey. There's ocean jasper, which is related to emotional healing, joy, and flow. And then there's yellow jasper, which is related to confidence and positive energy. So people will use jasper by holding it while they meditate. They may carry it around for grounding purposes. They may use it during energy work. Future episode we'll do on energy work. And then they may also use it for protection and stability rituals. The other crystal that's good for when the moon is in Capricorn is called tiger's eye. Tiger's eye is often called a stone of personal power because it's used for confidence and courage. People use it when they need a boost in self confidence or decision making, or for confidence to speak up for themselves. It's also used for protection. Historically, it was carried around as a protective stone. It's believed to ward off negativity or ill intentions. So that one's on my list to get. Tiger's eye is also used for focus and motivation. So when you're working towards goals, studying for something, and for staying self-disciplined, people will carry it around to boost their confidence, also to ward off those ill intentions and for protection. Some people may keep it on their desk or their workspace to help them with focus and motivation. So I'm going to get some to actually put on my workspace for when I'm working during the day. And then people will also use it when doing manifestation or intention rituals, working on their career goals, and again for needing courage. So that was our moon muse for the day. The second section I'm going to introduce, and these two sections are going to be a brief part of every episode now. Woohoo! So the second section is our daily enchantment. So for our daily enchantment, I will give you guys just a quick daily spell or ritual that you can note to use at a time whenever you want to, and I will also put the information in the show notes for you to look back on later. So today's daily enchantment ritual is gentle glow. The purpose of it is to invite calm, self compassion, and positive energy into your day. This one I will be writing down. I don't know, you might have seen it on my Facebook page, the book that I got to write down all my spells and rituals. So I will be adding this one to that book because it's definitely one that I want to try. So, some things that you'll want to have, which they are not required, they are optional, but using these items can enhance rituals. So, a quiet space I think is huge because that really just helps with your focus and your intention, which I think is really the most important part about doing any of these rituals is your focus. Also, a candle, it's recommended to use white, pink, or gold. And then a small crystal such as rose quartz, clear quartz, or amethyst. Amethyst is one that I actually just purchased recently, so now I have some amethyst. So you're going to want to set your scene. So if you're using a candle, light your candle, place your crystal nearby if you're using that, and you're going to want to just close your eyes and take 3 deep, slow breaths. You want to center yourself by imagining a soft light glowing in your chest and expanding with each inhale. And then with every exhale, you're releasing tension, worries, and self criticism. And then you want to speak your enchantment, which you can do out loud or in your mind if you prefer. And you're going to say, I am gentle with myself. I honor my heart and my journey. I release what no longer serves me and invite peace and light. And you're going to want to visualize, you want to see the light from your heart growing and surrounding your whole body, just spilling outward like a warm glow, touching all of your space and your whole day. And then to close the ritual, you just want to take one final deep breath, extinguish your candle if you used one, and just carry that gentle glow with you. And again, optional, but if you want, they do say that you can hold your crystal and tap it 3 times to seal your intention. So that is the gentle glow. That is today's daily enchantment. Again, I will put that in the show notes for you to use later. And again, if you can't use the props, if you don't have the props to use, you do not have to. The most important thing is really your visualization, your focus, your intention. But those things do enhance it. So that is entirely up to you. All right. So let's dive into Friday the 13th. So Friday the 13th has over time become the complete opposite of what it originally was, um, just based on different things, based on some different religions and just some history. I'm not bashing anybody's religion or history or beliefs or anything like that. I am just giving you a different perspective to look at Friday the 13th instead of looking at it as a bad thing. I'm giving you the reasons why it can actually be a good thing. So I'm going to start with the fear of Friday the 13th. So like I said, it's become this superstition that Friday the 13th is an unlucky day, that bad things are going to happen, people are going to act crazy. There's horror movies literally called Friday the 13th. And also, the number 13 itself has become something that's considered to be unlucky over time. If you've ever been to a large building that has like more than 13 floors or could have had 13 floors but just stops at 12 or something like that, it's because a lot of the times when they would build buildings, they would not put a 13th floor because of the superstition that surrounds the number 13. Me, on the other hand, 13 is one of my favorite numbers. It's my favorite number, and I consider it one of my lucky numbers. So one of the reasons why Friday the 13th became looked at as a negative thing is way back in medieval Europe, actually, the number 12 was considered harmonious. So the number 12 was their number. And that just became because there's 12 months in a year, there's 12 zodiac signs, there's 12 Olympian gods, there's 12 apostles. All of those beliefs made the number 12 very harmonious to them. And the number 13th to them felt unlucky because they felt like it stepped beyond that order that they had of the number 12. It just stepped beyond that, broke the order, broke the harmony. So then 13 just became unlucky to them. In Christianity beliefs, because it was believed that there was 13 people at the table during the Last Supper. One of the guests, Judas, who became associated with betrayal, was considered the 13th guest. So then 13 became looked at as a negative number for them. And then also they believe that Jesus was crucified on a Friday, and a lot of executions were often carried out on Fridays. So between that and Judas being the 13th guest, Fridays and 13 both just became looked at as a negative thing. So back in 1307, King Philip of France ordered for the arrest of the Knights of Templar on Friday, October 13th, 1307, and um, along with that came executions. So that is another reason why Friday the 13th was looked at as a bad day, because it just seems like bad things were occurring or negative things were occurring on Fridays or on Friday the 13th specifically or associated with the number 13. And then just over the late 1800s and early 1900s, folklore and superstitions just continued to develop on why Friday the 13th was just this horrible negative day. I think I might do an entire episode on superstitions actually. But to change the perspective, let's flip it. So in the pagan and witchcraft community, the number 13 is sacred in many earth-based traditions. It has a lunar connection because there are roughly 13 full moons in a year, which is linked it links the number to cycles, intuition, and also feminine energy. So the divine feminine and the triple goddess 13 is tied to the moon, fertility, and feminine cycles. Some traditions associate it with the 13 phases of the moon and the witch's sacred year. So that's also linked to, oh my gosh, oh, I totally lost my train of thought. It's linked to feminine energy, which I love. So also with the number 13, when it comes to the witch community, many old traditions would say that a coven of witches was complete if they had 13. So the 13 witches in a coven actually represented balance, protection, and collective energy. So that was how they considered a coven to be complete. So um, transformation and shadow work, 13 is also the number 13 is also associated with endings and beginnings. So letting go of what no longer serves you and to make space for growth and what actually can serve you. Okay, so I just want to jump back and talk about the sacred year briefly. So, in many witchcraft and pagan traditions, the sacred year which is also called the Wheel of the Year, is the cycle of I believe I mentioned this in a previous episode, but it's the cycle of the different seasonal festivals that mark the turning of nature. Um, that was going to go along with the episode on Sabbats that I had changed up. So when I do the episode on Sabbats, the Wheel of the Year will also be explained in that as well. Um, the number 13 is also connected to the Wheel of the Year. Some things that you can do on Friday the 13th and using the power of Friday the 13th, since we're looking at it in a positive way, is some people will set 13 intentions or affirmations. So you could write down 13 things that you want to release, 13 things that you want to manifest, or even 13 things that you want to celebrate in your life. So even if you wrote down 13 qualities that you want to manifest for yourself that you feel like you don't have, if you want more patience or if you want to have more self-love, more courage, etc. That's one thing. You can also do a 13 breath meditation. So you can inhale for 13 counts, hold for 13 counts, exhale for 13 counts. That's a lot. 13 is a lot. If you've ever done any kind of breath work, um, where you do the counting, 13 is quite a high number, but I think it's something I would definitely try. And when you do that, you want to visualize releasing negative energy and just filling yourself with light. So the 13 crystal grid or altar arrangement, some people will, on their altars, which we talked about in episode 2, some people will place 13 stones in a circle or a pattern, each representing a goal, a blessing, or protective energy. There's a shadow work ritual, which is where people will write down, again, 13 things that they want to release on paper, and then they will burn it. Please burn safely or bury it, or they may shred them as a symbolic act of just letting those things go. I love these. I want to try them all. I'm also creating a lucky 13 charm. So some people will make a talisman using 13 beads, 13 knots, or 13 different charms. And you can focus your intention on protection, prosperity, or personal power. I really kind of like that a lot. I think that's something I would definitely make to carry around with me. You can also do moon work or candle work. You could light 13 candles, and one candle would be for each of your 13 intentions. And you can meditate, um, focusing on balance, growth, and empowerment. And then, if you really wanted to, 13 acts of kindness, random acts of kindness. You could do 13 kind deeds today. In witchcraft, giving positive energy outward can attract positive energy back. So you could do 13 simple kind deeds if it's, letting somebody pull out in front of you when you're driving, holding the door open for somebody, picking something up that somebody dropped, giving somebody a compliment. It doesn't have to be something over the top. You don't have to start a chain of paying for the person in front of you, even though that's so sweet and great to do. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be something very simple. Even smiling at somebody is an act of kindness. You don't know what that smile could do for somebody that day. So those are just some things that you could do basically to celebrate and embrace Friday the 13th rather than fear it, because I don't fear it. I love Friday the 13th. Every time somebody's like, "Oh, it's Friday the 13th," I'm like, "Good. I love it." My son was actually born on the 13th. So yeah, 13 is definitely my lucky number. I should tattoo it on myself. But right, Friday the 13th, it's not a day of fear. It's a day to harness the sacred power of 13, whether that's through setting your intentions, doing rituals, doing simple acts of magic. This number just needs to remind us that endings and beginnings, shadow and light, they can all coexist beautifully. That's the important thing, is they coexist, and 13 and Friday the 13th don't have to be a bad thing. So yeah, that is all about Friday the 13th. So if you have questions or feedback, please drop them in the comments. I would love to answer questions, whether they're about me, about something I talked about, something you want me to talk about. I would love to answer your questions. So please drop them in the feedback, share the podcast with your friends and family. There is going to be a little mini bonus episode coming out on February 17th because February 17th is the new moon. And I want to give you guys some information on that and how you can work with that. So I'm going to drop just a little mini episode on February 17th about the new moon. And then after that, I will drop episode 4 on our regularly scheduled Fridays. So episode 4 will be coming out on the 20th. Episode 4 is where we're going to switch things up a bit. We're going to get into our first conversation because, like I always say, it is crystals, cauldrons, and conversations. And that's where we're going to have our first uncomfortable conversation because with these conversations, I'm going to bring up topics that are uncomfortable to talk about, but I think they need to be talked about because there's too much stigma around them, and talking about them helps to break that stigma. So, our first conversation on February 20th, episode 4, will actually be about eating disorders because February is Eating Disorder Awareness Month. And this is something that I can resonate with personally. So, I'll share a little bit of my story and give you some information and some resources as far as eating disorders go, along with our other two new sections that I introduced today. Will also be part of that. So tune in on February 17th for that little mini bonus episode, and then again on February 20th for episode 4. And until then, as always, stay magical.